Oh no.
I'm scared.
We're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lorecaster Podcast, episode 29. We're going to be reviewing Shadowlands, and also we're going to attempt to do a key in the background, so this will be fun.
We're going to do awful.
So, first of all, Sataro, thank you for the follow. We're going to go around the horn here, reintroduce some people, introduce some other people. Up on the top, we have Crzypck. You might know him from places such as
You probably don't know me.
Team Liquid Race to World First Things.
God damn it.
On the top right, we have Lunar Phase Gaming. You might know her from such places as Twitch, where she streams Dead by Daylight a lot.
It's not as often. It's a new thing for me. I mostly streamed WoW for the longest time.
Here in the middle on the left, we have Korora. Most of you know him as my oldest bio child, Jackson.
Hi, chat.
You'll find him on Twitch. He streams a lot of stuff. Minecraft, Dead by Daylight, Stardew Valley.
I play everything.
Things of the like. Also dabbles in the WoW.
Indeed, I do.
Bottom right, we have JustOhk.
What's up?
He can hopefully be found soon at a Twitch channel near you.
We'll see.
So,
We'll
yeah,
see.
he's... What were you playing earlier? You're playing some medieval Sims game?
Yeah.
I mean, Sims Medieval is pretty fun.
No, it was like, dude, it was really low budget. Like it got it for like $10. It wasn't even like Sim. I don't know. I was making them farm and making sure they didn't freeze to death. I was having a good time. Next thing you know, it was 8 a.m.
Find a battleground.
Sims Medieval is indeed a jam.
Oh, we're doing this.
Well, I mean, we can queue for rated BGs.
We can queue for rated.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
How? You can't 5-man rated BGs.
No, but you can sign
No,
up for
but
a
you
group.
can sign up for a group.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Whack.
They're honestly better than Battlegrounds. Like they're at least more fun in my opinion.
Is there any chance we actually get into one?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. People do like YOLO BGs all the time, especially on like the weekends. If not, we could just start our own and just call it YOLO BGs.
Oh my god.
Oh god, I'm very scared.
No one even cares. Like half the time, I don't even get in Discord. People are just in this like win or
Yeah,
lose.
you just go to go, man.
Dude, this is gonna be crazy.
Do it!
And of course, you got me, Warrior F13, your host here. We're gonna bang out some RBGs, I guess, while we talk about this. So the basic layout of what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna break down the story. We're gonna talk about different game mechanics that happened during the expansion. We're gonna talk about player interactions with those game mechanics, some thoughts. Some of us interacted with the lore more than others. Some of us played the game more than others. We have a vast array of individual experience with this expansion, so that's what we're gonna get into. So first off, I guess we'll just start from the beginning. We had a nice cinematic at the beginning of the expansion. Sylvanas goes to Ice Crown Citadel, fights Bolvar, whoops his ass, opens up the sky, which was pretty cool. And then we go to the Shadowlands, which was busted. So,
That's an understatement.
what?
We got to pick a covenant.
Yeah. So
putting it lightly.
I think more factions. God.
cheers everybody. If you're gonna shoot whatever, I got some whiskey, coffee, peanut butter whiskey.
I got scotch.
Peanut butter whiskey.
Hell yeah, peanut butter
I can
whiskey.
get
Yeah,
it.
something.
Delicious.
I got this one.
I'll just stick with my water.
There you
I prefer apple whiskey or honey whiskey to either.
So
I
yeah,
love
so we get to Shadowlands and we learn about how the Arbiter's broken. She's the sorting hat of the Shadowlands. We have to go fix all these zones that
Sure
we
house.
don't know anything about.
Or really care about.
Or yeah, no, that's. I guess we'll talk about that. We come to the Shadowlands and we don't have any connection to what's going on here. So, what was, for those of us who are around, what did you guys think of kind of what we were thrown into? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you kind of ambivalent to it?
I mean, I only really ever saw one piece because from the time the expansion was announced, I said I was going to be Night Fae no matter what. And then the expansion came out, and I went Night Fae and stayed Night Fae no matter what, and still haven't changed, and still on my Hunter have not changed off Night Fae for the entire expansion. So I got to like experience a pretty cool storyline there and see what that's all about, but.
That covenant has been good for you the whole expansion, so you didn't need to change.
Yeah, right?
You did get lucky there.
I was saying Night Fae whether it was good or not. I have a really long history of like, if I find something more fun than something else, I'll do it, even if it's not completely ideal. I have a really long and storied history. Of
You
playing
do.
like that.
Yeah, you do.
For me, I actually spent time trying to figure out which one was going to be best. I spent time trying to figure out.
No.
Yeah.
I spent time trying to figure out which one was going to be best from an RP standpoint, since I'm on an RP realm. And all of my characters had their own picked out by the time each one, and not even all of my characters have even been through yet, but like my priest and my paladin ended up, well, my priest and my paladin were both going to go Kyrian, but my priest ended up going Maldraxxus instead. And my paladin went Kyrian, but also Venthyr at the same time.
Shadow or a healer?
She's a healer.
Yeah, so that just makes absolutely no sense to me. Why would a healer want to go and be like the necromancer? Like that was one of the biggest issues of the expansion, like for me to just wrap my head around was.
Yeah, I only picked covenants based on
there were some that made a lot of sense thematically. There were others where if you're just purely
paladin, baby,
it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, no,
Like
for a healer to go Maldraxxus, it really doesn't make sense. But for me and mine, because I don't play my healer really that much, it's all character development. And her character development ended up keeping her stuck in Maldraxxus. Again, RP realm.
So, I kind of went the same route as Crazy. Like, I wanted to be Venthyr, and I did not give two shits what was good and what was bad. It just so happens that it was good for subtlety, so there we are. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I only picked at maxing, and it's never been the one I wanted, so very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, see, and that was exactly what I didn't want to happen. Like, I saw, like, Maldraxxus just never appealed to me, like, at all. And I had no desire to ever go to them, even if it was best for Hunter. I was like, no. Like, I don't like weird choices like that. If I have to make a choice that you're telling me is impactful, I want it to be something that's fun.
I mean, right now, I'm a Night Fae Warlock right now. Put that shit together.
Yeah, I never understood that, and that's just it. Right? I never understood.
It's the best one for me.
Yeah, I never understood how they thought of that. Anyway, so we got covenants. We'll talk about covenants. obviously this
Probably
system,
mods, dude.
this system was based. It's so weird. So when we start this thing off, right? Like you can only be one covenant. There's no swapping. Like one covenant could be good for one content. One covenant could be good for another piece of content. But you were kind of stuck, right? And then what was the other thing? The other thing was conduit energy, right? Like we could only use conduits, or we could only swap conduits so much. And
Imagine giving people the ability to switch their specialization no matter where they are in the world. All you need is a tome. You can change everything about it, but guess what? You have a finite resources. You can't recover other than time. And,
Yeah.
And if you want to switch specs, then you have to switch your conduits. So, hey, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
so there was that system that nobody liked. Then we had Torghast. Torghast was hit or miss, right? Like some people really liked it. Their class was like super overtuned for it.
Yeah, but that's like you liked it because you were overpowered in it.
Yeah.
That does not,
Yeah.
that does not classify as still being good content to me. Like, even
Although-
if it's enjoyable for the wrong reasons because
Yeah.
you could just literally blow through it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fun, but that does lose its luster after like.
Although
4
I
times.
still know people who want to live in Torghast to this day. And I'm like, there's literally no reason for you to go there. What are you
On an
doing?
enhancement shaman, I think it's the most fun thing you can do on an enhancement shaman. It is absolutely hilarious. You're just launching tornadoes everywhere, thunder crashes, it's
Things going
bright
flying.
flash. It's a ton of fucking fun.
Yeah.
But after like 3 runs, you're like, all right, cool. It's just like when you're the overpowered dude at the end of the game, right? Like, it's fun for a little bit to watch everything explode when you look at it, but like eventually it's just like,
Yeah, eventually it just gets kind of boring.
yeah, you're just kind of bored.
Yeah.
Like Torghast is at every level is either it's extraordinarily difficult, like way over the top, and is just like not even fun at that point, or it's so easy it's brain dead. There's like no in between.
I mean, the only way to get an in between to it is to like do something like drunk Torghast and just pick the stupidest
Or-
shit.
Just ask Blizzard to balance things better.
That's
But-
never gonna happen.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
Imagine not being able to balance solo instance PvP or PvE content.
So
Jesus. What is this, Cataclysm?
I'm trying to think what else was there gameplay wise, because so we have legendaries. That's why we're doing Torghast, right? Like we're doing Torghast because we need legendaries. We have this legendary system where you can
I
buy
can't
the
look right now, sweetheart.
we can buy the base items,
Yeah.
but they are so ridiculously expensive. Like, what was your guys' take on the like how you made legendaries at the beginning?
I thought that
hated
was
it.
really-
I don't know. I didn't mind it too much, to be honest with you. Like, and maybe it's just because I just expect the grind, like no matter what, right? So I don't know. I was like, yeah, this is all right. It wasn't too bad. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but it was definitely not the worst thing in the fucking game. That's for sure.
Did
Of
you?
all of the ways that like they could have had us do legendaries, I think this was the best.
They definitely could have made it
I
easy,
am
better.
nuking.
Shogun in chat said that Torghast was awesome. Then retail changes happened. That actually.
True
That
fact.
sums up
Accurate.
the entirety of this game.
I mean, that's like.
I mean, that's like saying
Really?
fucking what is it? That was like saying Cataclysm was great and then retail happened.
No, bro. Cataclysm was bad front to back.
Cataclysm was just bad.
I'm just saying that's how it's the
Cataclysm.
same aspect though.
Yeah, I could pull better expansions out of a garbage disposal. I'm going to be very honest.
Yeah, we'll talk about.
Anything Ghost Crawler touched in this game is trash.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Oh, that's not
None of your business, baby.
We can talk about some of that stuff a little bit later because we can talk about like classic stuff.
Dude, I just annihilated that guy.
I just got my ass kicked. For those who don't know,
I'm
we're doing an
still alive
RPG in the
somehow.
background.
I'm nuking.
I'm on 3 or 4 kills right now.
I just got killed because I had
Died
the flag.
once.
I told you, dude. YOLO RPGs are freaking hilarious.
So with the
I'm dead.
legendaries, they got super
Some of-
expensive. Like
You're
some
done. Adios, amigo.
some items were like exorbitant in price. So
Get good.
there was a lot of
Understand that.
like, oh, this is a pay to win game, blah 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 blah. And I was
If
like,
only they knew.
dude,
Pay to win, they weren't that expensive. Just
I
make
was-
gold.
They
well, I
really
mean-
weren't, like,
I never had a problem buying legendary items, but I also
or, I
am
mean,
an
like,
adult.
here's the thing: is like you had an alternative, and it's called crafting. And if you don't want to put in the time to craft, and put in the time to make the gold,
Yeah,
and it's that simple. And to be very honest, the people that are buying gold are typically the people that are working more than they're playing WoW, and the people that are complaining about a pay-to-win game are typically playing WoW more than they're working. So,
Accurate.
yeah, exactly.
Very accurate.
like that argument within this game is just absurd to me. I'm like, dude, you have no fucking idea what pay-to-win is, pal.
No, have you seen Diablo Immortal?
Oh my god, yes, I have.
Yeah, right.
Go play
That's
literally
pay to
any
fucking
other
win.
game.
Yeah, like go,
Nothing,
Go
baby.
dude.
Why you
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Because
Literally any other game, and you will see pay to win.
Yeah, I mean, EA is the champion of this model, and they don't even do MMOs.
Yeah, I mean, look at like Madden, bro. Madden's been pay to win for like 10 years, and ain't nobody said shit.
Madden,
Okay,
FIFA, any
Everybody only plays competitive on the my teams, right? So then you just buy the best cards and
Yep.
nuke everything.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
like, hello, I got Jerome Bettis.
Stop
I'm gonna
fucking
kill
pulling
you.
me.
So
Right.
that's kind of the game mechanics part of it. The story, we go to the maw, we find out that everybody's trapped there. There's this big bald nipple hanging out dude that we're like, wow, what's up, daddy?
I don't know
Uh,
who was saying that, but
Okay.
I'm trying to. Oh wait, who's the big bald nipple dude?
the jailer.
Oh,
Yeah,
mean,
so
I'm
we-
gonna call him
Pop
daddy.
off. I'm about to pop off. Let's
Uh,
go.
Yeah, I'm about to
Not
die
the
or
bus.
something.
we go to rescue some people. Jaina, Bane, you know, the super impactful, important Bane.
You
Brawl.
leave Bane Bloodhook alone.
I mean, he is the most
mean-
impactful.
That actually,
Dude, when you stop and think about it, Bane had fucking what, 10, 15 corpses around him. Thrall had like 2. Come on.
Yeah. Oak and I were talking earlier when I was getting some stuff set up about this expansion right now kind of has like the WoD vibe where they're like, yeah, this is kind of where we're at and we're moving on to the next thing. And what we were talking about was this feels less like WoD story-wise slightly because I don't feel like they skipped.
They didn't skip to the end. They just said, okay, this is the end.
Yeah, like they cut things in the middle, but they didn't cut things that didn't make sense. And I think Bane is one of those things. Like there,
Yeah.
you can't tell me that they anticipated Bane sitting on the steps in Ouroboros for a year and a half and not doing shit.
Sure they did. That was
Chris, like, oh yeah, absolutely.
that was absolutely on purpose. Come on now.
It still needs to be clean.
I mean, that would make him the most useless
tell me
leader
else.
for 2 straight expansions.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's a Tarn. What do you expect?
I don't expect much.
Exactly. So what's the problem?
Nothing.
I expect things
Thrall.
will be disappointed.
I don't really have anything to say about Thrall.
Why even bring him back?
That's
You
kind of
didn't-
where
you didn't fucking do anything with him. Like, what was the whole fucking point, guys?
that's kind of
Because
where
people like Thrall.
I mean, yeah, I
It's-
love Thrall.
it's
Thrall's one of my
green
favorite
Jesus-
characters in
it's
this
green Jesus
entire
thing.
franchise. But like, I'm also
Yeah.
the person who's like, you know, if the story's done, the story's done. I liked where Thrall was at, living a life of peace in the Grand. Like, I felt like he earned that. And then they
He
brought his ass
did.
out of retirement to do fucking nothing.
first of
Like,
all, I'm gonna die on this hill. It's Green Moses.
That's what I'm telling you. Green Moses earned his keep, son. Let him be in peace.
I
Leave my
mean, he
man
did
be.
earn his keep,
Make
but
him,
I
make him
guess
a
they
perma
want to.
NPC out there. Make him chill. Then you can go visit him whenever. But no.
Yeah,
They gotta involve him somehow.
it's another
gotta
one of
keep-
those like
don't know how to leave shit dead. That's
it's
just,
another one of those like
Shadowlands is the perfect
Yeah.
example of that.
It
he's
was-
another version of
it was
like
just like a fan service thing because they know everyone likes Thrall.
But it's
not
just
only
like
that,
Illidan,
I think
right?
It had a lot to do with the
Hated
fact
him at
that
the
they
time.
were bringing Draka in. I think that's why they brought him back, just because they brought Draka in. Period.
yeah, I think that's part of it, but I don't know. I think there are other ways they could have done that. Like I don't.
I would like to see
you
Durotar
could've
instead of
just had
Thrall.
Draka, to be honest with you, you just like she's a more than well developed and fleshed out character. You do not need Thrall to pair her with. If anything, it diminishes her.
I think we can all agree that just fan service is a fat cash cow.
Well, of course.
Fan service is beyond a fat cash cow.
Of course, that's why they do it. But I see Thrall in this instance like Illidan, right? Like he's such a fan favorite that
He's a staple.
that people are just like, oh, things are going downhill. Let's throw in this character, and it's just like, you know, sometimes it's best to just leave well enough alone. Like you don't need him to be the orc representative in the council. Like there are plenty of orcs that would have done just fine.
Prove that.
So anyway,
I'm
we
sorry.
go to the maw. We free the leaders. Then we find out that the covenants are all fucked up. There's an anima drought. We go help them with that, and we learn a little bit about each covenant. What did you guys think of each individual covenant? If you recall, like what their stories were.
I don't like Bastion in the slightest.
So
Actually
Bastion,
like Bastion?
I think Bastion got a bad rap.
yeah, I think so
Getting in
too.
the expansion, given the time and circumstances of when the expansion released. But the overarching end of that story, I felt is a very good story of going down the wrong path and realizing you're going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
So I think people jumped to conclusions very quick on Bastion right out the gate. Didn't give time for that story to really flesh out and see that it truly was a path of redemption rather than, you know, what people made it out to be. I think Bastion ended very well. I think it was a long story that you did need to pay attention to, and if you didn't, it can be misconstrued. But I think at the end, especially with the conclusion with Uther and seeing what Pelagos happens, everything that was said about Bastion at the beginning of the expansion is kind of null and void almost.
Of the factions that I actually finished, I would have to say Bastion was probably the better of the two that I finished, because I finished Bastion and I finished the Venthyr. Bastion by far was the better of the two.
I thought Venthyr
storylines,
was very dry.
Yeah.
The Venthyr, the beginning of the Venthyr storyline,
these are some dry motherfuckers. I mean, it makes sense for them to be dry.
The beginning of the Venthyr storyline, I absolutely fucking hate it. But for me, it hit on a very personal level when you were dealing with the accuser at the very beginning and you find out what her sin was.
Oh, with her daughter.
That hit on an extremely personal level for me.
On the Venthyr story, when I spent 20 minutes delivering mailboxes or delivering letters to mailboxes.
I will put it like this with the Venthyr storyline. I was doing beta when I ran across that. I actually quit playing for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that one hit.
Storyline.
That one hit different. Like once you're like, oh, okay, and then she's like, yeah, I did that, and I've been here long enough. I've come to grips with that. That's why I am not bound like the rest of you idiots who haven't figured it out yet.
That's why y'all still have your tombstones on you. I'm good.
I liked Night Fae. That was pretty cool. I think that was like not very meaningful, but like a fun story to run through. And then I never did Maldraxxus because I don't want to just walk around on fleshy flesh all day. So
I liked how much Knife tied into things, and I enjoyed that.
yeah,
I enjoyed seeing the story and how much it tied into like, oh, the night elves and like the Fae race in general is
Yep.
tied heavily to the Night Fae, and I enjoyed like all the night elves and everything. Okay, they worship Elune. Turns out Elune is, you know, the sister to the Night Queen or the Winter
Oh,
Queen.
spoiler alert!
Ooh, no.
We haven't got to 9.1 yet. And,
I really enjoyed Night for sure.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So I did all 4.
Nerd.
Because I
also did all 4. But
a
I was trying
masochist.
to catch up.
Loser.
So if I had to rank them, like I already talked about this. I joined Venthyr because that's what I wanted to be, but I would say they probably were the worst one, like story wise. I thought that one was, I don't know, it just was like super slow.
Dude, it was like bad whiskey, bro. You're gonna drink it, it's gonna get the job done, but it ain't the same.
Yeah.
Like the whole point behind Venthyr was the Revendreth, like, okay, we've been betrayed by, you know,
yeah.
the leader.
And
that was kind of like the whole point.
I didn't think I was gonna like Bastion or Maldraxxus, but those ones actually were like 1 and 2 for me.
I think Maldraxxus had the better characters.
I think Maldraxxus is the ugliest zone ever made.
Oh, absolutely.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah, it is. There's no doubt about that.
I can't do
Well, that
it.
was the point, isn't it?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
bro, I
that was the
can't do
point
it.
of Maldraxxus.
That was like the entire point of Maldraxxus is like.
Yeah,
this
and I
is where
still don't like it. Like,
Hard.
objective accomplished. Good job. I hate it here.
Yeah, fair. You're supposed to.
Good job, Blizzard.
Like Oak said with Bastion, that was a slow burn. I mean, it was a good one.
They fucking got a lot of people's ass on.
I liked how it, like Jackson was saying, how like the Night Fae kind of ties into its own thing and kind of branches out into like the world we know. I liked how Bastion kind of relied on the other 3 areas to build itself back up. So part of that arc, part of that arc was not just like, hey, we're doing things wrong, but we also need to rely on the rest of the Shadowlands to do our jobs properly. So that, I thought that whole story arc was good.
It came out of being entirely self-righteous into being like, okay.
I think character-wise, Maldraxxus had the better characters just in general. Not Bastion, Maldraxxus. Bastion had the best character growth.
Yeah. I did think though with Maldraxxus, again there was another zone that kind of got a bad rap just based on like aesthetics. Like if you were paying attention to what was happening in the zone, it's actually pretty solid story. Like the fall of the houses and the betrayal and like the infiltration of the House of Rituals.
Pick it all up,
like all of that stuff, and because it wasn't just contained within the first patch. Like it led you into the next patch when we go into that. Let's see. So we take care of all that, figure out, everybody's woes, and now we're gonna go into the raid. We're gonna go into fight Denathrius because he's the one who's hoarding all the animas. Which that's another system that we didn't talk about.
Denathrius he was like honestly one of the worst villains they've had.
You think Denathrius is worse than the jailer?
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Really?
Yeah, they made his first trap as the bad
so cliche, so fucking obvious. Like,
well, of course it was obvious.
The jailer's the centerpiece of the expansion, right? So like the jailer is cool. I'm cool. I know what the jailer is, but for me to get to the first like through the first tier, it's just like, yeah, this guy, I felt nothing for him. It was awful.
It's just here.
Yeah, I'm like, cool.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
I didn't
big
even feel
bad. We can
good
take him
killing him.
out.
A lot of the bosses, I feel good at the end. I'm like, yeah, cool, we saved the world. This, nah, I was like, oh, sick. This
On to the
fucking
next
fuck
guy.
is dead. Like, he's just a nobody to me. I'm like, chump, dude.
Wow.
Daddy Denathris did not do it for me. Turned me off this expansion right off the start.
Interesting.
I mean, that was one of the few freaking thirst traps that we got.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but Thirst Trap is not good content.
No, but it's pandering. That's what it is. And honestly, I'm fine with pandering sometimes.
I mean,
I
some
gotta have
pandering's
my eye
fine.
candy.
I like to feel good when I kill the bad guy, and I just didn't feel good when I killed the bad guy.
Well, you didn't kill the bad
I mean,
guy,
the
which is a
bad-
whole
yeah,
nother
the bad guy
scenario.
Frickin'
Yeah, I
disappeared
mean,
into a
whatever.
fucking sword.
Which
That was
I
campy
think
on its
killing
own.
the bad guy is not killing the bad guy in WoW, because God forbid they kill anything, because then they have to resurrect.
Yeah.
They gotta find some way to
That's
bring him back.
wow. I'm shook right now.
Why?
You're the first person I've ever heard who didn't like Denathrius.
Taylor played exactly the role he was gonna play from the start. I don't know how you could be upset with the story of this guy. Like so boom, he's the big bad of the expansion. That's what he's supposed to do.
Well, I'm
Give
not
me a
necessarily upset with the story.
mystery on the other guys. Don't like, oh, I met this guy. I'm like, great. I'm gonna kill him. Like that's. And then I killed him, and I was like, what did this dude really do? Not shit. He was not important to anyone, damn near. Someone else could have done his job just as easily as he did it.
We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into like post 9.2 stuff. But wow, so Crazy Puck. This is now we're gonna talk about raids. You get to hang out with all the cool kids. Just the raid itself. If you can go back 2 years to when the raid happened.
What, Nathria?
Yeah. I know obviously we're back in Nathria now, but like it's not the same. What was like the overall feeling of those high-powered gamers with that raid?
If you delete Stone Legion Generals from existing, it was a good raid.
Specifically the Mythic
Stone
version,
Legion
right?
Generals, huh?
Specifically the Mythic version.
Well, yeah. Stone Legion Generals was a just buggy, disgusting mess that didn't work and was painfully inconsistent, and like there was so much variability from pool to pool over just like the fight not working. One of the big things was that General Draven runs around in this or flies around in the sky and is supposed to like knock down those dudes, and sometimes he just wouldn't.
Just didn't.
There was no like real consistency to when they would get knocked down and when you would get your orbs or when you would be able to fight things or like when stuff would come. And there were times where Draven would just like bug and glitch out and just like stay in one spot and just nothing would happen, and it's a wipe and there's nothing you could do. The fight itself just wasn't functionally working. And with such a long and when it is working, very technically difficult fight, it was miserable. It's one of the worst fights I've ever had to slog through as a caster. Outside of that, it was a really good raid. I mean, Denathrius was a cool fight, a little undertuned. Granted, we all got to him like at the start of week 2, so week 1 tuning on Denathrius would have been really sick, and Sludgefist was remarkably well tuned. That was awesome.
I thought that
fight.
was a great fight.
The rogue teabagged me.
Yeah, it was a very, very good overall overall raid, other than Stone Legion Generals. And unfortunately, SLG was so bad that it kind of put a stain on the rest of, like, on the whole raid. And so most people look at the raid and say, yeah, this is a shit raid, because of how bad Stone Legion Generals was.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I got too. That like the one fight that was just broken just ruined it for the rest, like for the rest of the raid.
It did. It really did.
And then it didn't help that raid lasted, what, like 9 months or whatever?
Yeah.
So
that ended up just being such a huge negative that all the rest of the positives of the raid couldn't quite outweigh it.
No.
But really, it was a pretty good overall raid. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of really good fights. And, I mean, hell, I had fun progging most of it. It was just Stone Legion Generals is fucking painful.
So
And there was, like, they also got to experiment a little bit, right? Like, they did that, what was the fight? The, Sun King Salvation. It's been a really long time since we had a legitimate straight up healer fight.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, and it was really nice, and it was different. It changed the pace, and that's a good thing. Like, we want Blizzard to be experimenting. Zymox was a really cool fight that stayed difficult because there was just so much shit going on. You never knew what was going to happen to you.
I thought the Council of Blood was a pretty good fight too.
Council of Blood was a weird one for me because, like, I like fights where you can really have a lot of agency as a raid and, like, be able to do a lot of different things and change what you're doing, and, like, you have a lot of effect on how the fight itself plays out. But some of your choices just made certain aspects, like, almost impossible.
Yeah, that's true.
It was weird. It wasn't bad though. It wasn't bad. It definitely wasn't one of the worst kind of council fights ever. It was pretty good.
And depending on your group makeup, you could definitely switch that fight up. Not during Race of World First, like that. That's a whole separate animal from like regular people who prog. But like, depending on your makeup, you could definitely do some different things in that fight. Kind of deal with the different mechanics.
Yeah, there was a lot good that Castle Nathria had going for it. It's just one really big stain kind of was big enough that everyone's going to remember the Stone Legion Generals, right?
Yeah.
Have
you touched it at all this season with the faded affixes?
Yeah, I cleared all 3 of them on heroic.
Ow, Vera, stop.
Well, you didn't do it on Mythic, and I don't know many people who are doing it on Mythic because it's not really necessary. But
it's not worth it.
What do you think of? I know we're kind of skipping forward to season 4, but it doesn't really do anything with Lorecaster. What do you think of the faded affixes with the old raids?
Indifferent. I thought it was like a neat idea for them to do something completely new and experiment. I like when Blizzard decides they're willing to experiment. I thought this was a great time for them to experiment. Most of the faded affixes weren't really all that impactful, except for like there's the shield one where if you fail the shield, you just
blow. That one's rough.
And then there's like the chaotic essence one where it's just like if you maximize that properly, it's just a turbo DPS.
Oh yeah, it's like a internal lust.
Yeah, really weird levels of impact on what they ended up doing. But I mean, I loved the idea. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was interesting. I love when they do new things.
So this week, I don't know who's played this week, but this week they added a second affix to every boss. So like, it's the same affixes, but they just added a second one. So like, you could have the creation catalyst where you kill all the mobs, or you can have like the creation spark, which is the one that you decurse somebody, and then it has the puddles that you soak.
The soak thing.
Basically just any combination of 2 of those, and it really, if you do the mechanics, like the damage profile is significantly different, and you can just melt things. It's really, I don't know, like we cleared heroic on Tuesday in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really cool idea. I would like to see them carry this forward to probably every expansion after the last tier is over, just because it helps keep things interesting. It mixes things up, and you're not just bashing your face against the jailer every week for a re-clear for fucking 9 months.
Right. I think this is something Blizzard is done in response, not so much as a test, but more of a what are Final Fantasy fans pining about? What do they like? What are they enjoying, right? And one of the big things they like is syncable content, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's one of the big draws that game has. And it's I can go back and I can do any raid or any event that I really want to at the level it's meant to be done, with the stats it's meant to be done at, with the abilities I'm supposed to have, right?
Yeah.
And in WoW, in order to do that, you have to go play a completely different game, right?
Yeah. Or be leveling
this,
up and
I
level
think,
sync,
is
because there's
kind
no
of
way to
a-
do it at max level.
It's kind of a nice middle ground where you can go back and do tuned content. So rather than see this move forward, I'd like to see this move backwards, as this almost the replacement to what we call the time walking iteration of a raid. I'd like to see this on a rotation, just like time walking has, but with the fixes, and they can again apply it to the M plus rotation, work in 2 or 3 old raids per season, right? And move forward. It wouldn't be terribly difficult. It would take the manpower to, put it in there, but
So
it's
would
something
you-
where they already have these things in place. I'd love to get like a fixed fire.
So here's my question about that. So we all know about like the weekly whatever. We got the world quests and pet battles and mythic dungeons and then just like time walking. Would you rather they get rid of some of those lesser valued ones and then keep time walking available for a couple weeks at a time and then do that on a rotation during time walking, or would you like this to be something more permanent?
Time walking is a concept in its current iteration that actually hurts Blizzard more than it'll benefit, and especially moving forward, because these rotations are only bound to get longer, right?
Yeah,
As we
sure.
continue to incorporate more expansions with
I
more,
don't
it's
know that
only going to
it's
get. The biggest complaint is I have to wait 12 weeks for or whatever the time frame is for a fresh rotation, right?
Right.
So if I miss it, hypothetically, I'm on vacation that week and I'm not near a computer, I now have to wait however long before I can even attempt to do that content again. And even then, because it's so limited, I might not even finish what I want to finish. Right? So I think time walking is as far as like the rotational concept of it, probably needs to
Did
disappear.
he kick you out, Jackson?
He's like, he messaged me, he PM'd me, he's like, your talents are wrong, you're doing no damage, bye.
The fuck?
We can just go find another group.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I did 4 kills the first match.
They fell apart
That
anyway.
was not smart of
Yeah.
him. Yeah, I think the rotational time gated concept of time walking needs to go away entirely. And I probably won't be happy with the system until that happens. But it's fun, and they need to figure out a way to make it rewarding other than like getting gear that's only applicable at the beginning of an expansion and then whenever they patch it throughout it. But I don't know. There's a lot of good that I think Blizzard is on the right track for when it comes to these things.
So would you rather time walking was more like the Final Fantasy setup where you can just queue and it does like the group sync where it tunes you down to the content?
No, I mean, I would rather it be tuned up with the fixes, to be honest. Like I think this is their own spin on it, and I like it. It's fresh, it's interesting at a minimum. I mean, I haven't played much, but I've watched people stream it and I'm like, this looks actually fun. Low pressure content at the core of it, and it looks enjoyable. They don't have for me, like I feel like Blizzard just doesn't have a lot of low pressure environment right now. It just doesn't exist. Everything is very high. You get into a Mythic Plus, you're expected to know the route, expected to know this, expected to know that. I mean, case in point, Jackson getting kicked out of that YOLO RBG group.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? The advertise is literally YOLO, right? And we get in there and he's telling him his talents are wrong and this and that. And it's like,
that's not YOLO, bro.
Not YOLO,
No,
bro.
it's
Like,
not.
YOLO, I mean, who gives a shit? We're just running it. You're getting 300
running
dollars.
it.
Like, just go, right? So there's not and that's part the community's problem and part what Blizzard's fostering, because really all they've put out over the last few years as far as new enjoyable content is competitive. You know, it's
And
arguable
not
over the last.
everybody is into the competitive scene of
So,
things.
like-
Like I can't stand that.
And,
Yeah,
well,
there's
you're the
that too.
majority of the player base to be honest.
Yeah,
Like
for
that's
sure.
that's the majority of the player base. The rest of the people that are clearing mythic content are what, still 1%, if not less.
Yeah.
Probably a little more now, I'd imagine. The games can get a little bit more competitive, I would say, overall.
I feel like
Well, especially with cross faction.
Yeah, with cross faction and things of that nature, maybe. But I mean, 3% of the player base
Maybe.
at most, right?
Maybe.
So
and I feel
know,
like
that-
people
that's
going like
like
even doing
generous.
heroic is like less than 20%.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't
What the
even
fuck do
raid.
you do on this game if you don't raid?
mean, yeah,
Well,
well,
we're
that's
doing
why
some
I
of it
know
right now.
100% like, yeah,
if I'm not competing, am I playing the game like that? And that's how I function
What
too.
do you do
Like,
if you don't raid?
No,
So
and I fall into that too. Like Mythic Plus is my bread and butter. Like I raid, I don't raid Mythic, not like really Mythic. Like we'll dabble in Mythic, but that's not what we don't progress Mythic.
We might do a boss or two.
Yeah, but like Mythic Plus, that's my jam. And I know people who are
I
like
enjoy it.
Mythic Plus ruined WoW, and it's like what the like.
no, I mean,
There's a ton of
Dude,
shit for
I
you to
literally
do.
just started. I love
having
Mythic
another
Plus.
avenue to play a game is never a bad thing, especially because look at
Yeah.
how much. Let's be real here. If M Plus didn't come into WoW, I
It'd
don't
be
know that
dead.
WoW would even still be producing content
For
because, in my
probably
opinion,
not.
it fucking saved this game.
Yeah, probably
Because
not.
think about it.
That
Think about all the people who raid logged before M Plus came out. It was
Right.
literally all. Like if you were a mythic raider, you raid log. Like, all right, cool. Daily's done, weekly's done. All I'm logging in for the rest of the week is raid. I'll be here for my 6 hours
Yeah. Yep.
A week.
a week. Like how they came up with a great idea to get people back into the game on a daily basis. Now,
I mean,
Mythic Plus is objectively a good thing overall.
yeah,
I think
and
so.
I
it
enjoy
makes-
the Mythic Pluses.
It's great. It's a great thing.
It's
That
replayability.
That thing is probably put out since group finding. To be realistic,
Which can't put that in classic.
No,
Yeah,
I
that
still
was-
think
that's
Group
dumb.
Finder was a shit idea, but
Well,
Mm,
I
I
disagree.
disagree.
I know why people think that, but the intent of that tool is not to kill like social gaming. It was just to make it easier to find people to be social with. Like-
yeah, and I understand why they did it. It's just coming from the standpoint of look at the amount of toxicity the game has now. It's made it a lot easier too for people to be
I-
even
it was-
more toxic.
Gaming was gonna get toxic.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
This game is-
everybody's just
I
toxic
promise.
anymore.
From
like this
someone who's
game is
not-
18 years
I
old,
would
right?
call-
Like it's gonna get toxic after a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mythic Plus is not the reason for
And
toxicity.
Yeah.
here, it
No, I'm
opened
not
up
saying
a-
Mythic Plus.
level
I'm
of
talking
competitive.
about the looking for group option.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. I
Oh.
mean, it was already toxic. Like before, like even if you were on a server and people are like, oh, it killed the community, and it's like, okay, great. I'm a new player on a server. I start playing. I can't, get into this group because they're already established. This stuff had already been happening. It just wasn't happening as blatantly in front of the people who
it
didn't
was
care
less
about it.
overt and visible.
Yeah.
Yes, because they weren't advertising for groups.
Yeah.
Or they'd be like, okay, great, have you? And it's not, people are like, oh, they want achievements. I'm like, yeah, but they would ask you if you killed the boss before achievements were there. So it's the same shit, just smells a little different.
Yeah, it's the
Gotta be a
underbelly
smartass.
becoming exposed, is what it is.
Yeah, it's on a wider scale because Group Finder is multi-server.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or you were limited to the people that were on your server, right? Like that was it. That's all you had.
Better hope someone
And-
is paying attention to
People,
server chat.
people are like, oh my god, that made you accountable for your toxicity. Trust me, I played New World. New World is a server-specific game. You are locked to the server. Guess
Yeah,
what?
No.
People are still
Oh,
toxic,
God.
and they still say what they want to say, and they still do
Yeah.
what they want to do,
No,
and
it
they
was-
still ninja loot, and they don't care.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean
It's- and it was the-
that's been in
Well,
MMOs
that's
since
why.
the beginning. Like that's not a new
That's-
concept.
it's human nature. It's what it comes down to.
So, I'm gonna turn it back to lore for
Okay.
a second because we kind of got off topic a little bit.
A little bit.
So
That's an understatement.
now I kind of stopped playing like halfway through Sanctum and then came back for Sepulcher, so I missed like a big chunk of the story in the middle of the expansion. I basically like didn't play 9.2 or 9.1, I guess that
9.1.
was. So my understanding is we went in to fight the Nathris because he was stealing everybody's anima because he's big bad guy that's helping the jailer. And then we somehow found out that like every bad thing that's ever happened was the jailer's fault somehow. Like he pulled the strings and like he caused like all the dreadlords and shit because he controlled the dreadlords. So all the shit we've seen, even going all the way back to like the everything, the plague and undead existing, was all like the jailer's grand scheme and infiltrating everyone with use of the dreadlords, and then Sylvanas and all that shit, and like why?
No, he's done. Leave him alone.
Did anyone ever come to like the conclusion of like why we should either believe or care
So
that like
All
a
Arthas'
character developed in less than 6 months was apparently pulling the strings on the last like 25 years of my life?
So, all right. So
Like-
first of all, let's
hard to get invested on why the jailer
Yeah.
is important.
So first of all, let's talk about like the story they've laid out, and then we'll talk about like the viability of how they implemented it, right? So basically what we are told through the game and various media, because hey everybody, they tell this story through other media, transmedia narrative. It's awesome. You should check it out.
Whoa.
What we learn is that yes, Denathrius created the Nathrezim. The jailer found a way to use them to leave the Shadowlands, because basically the premise here is that nothing escapes the Shadowlands or the Maw until something does, and that's something that happens in the Sylvanas book. Like that's a quote that he says. And they go out to. This isn't just about like the Burning Legion. This is about he is trying to recreate the universe in a way that is quote unquote fair. Like his whole thing is that the system created by the first ones, the progenitors, like whatever you want to call them, is flawed. Like they've laid everything out and you don't get any choice. Like everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, and all the things you think you're choosing is really just a path that's already been laid before you. And his goal is to fix it. So he uses the Nathrezim.
Ending everything.
Yeah, I mean there's more to that too.
Isn't that what Argus wanted?
So
I'm gonna end the cycle of death by just ending everything.
Yeah, it wasn't even. So the way that they kind of present this in the Sylvanas book is that he doesn't want to end everything. This isn't like Sargeras, who is out to just end all existence. So the Nathrezim are the ones, in the way they've presented the story, is the one that turned Sargeras, right? Like they're ultimately the reason behind the Burning Legion, but they're not necessarily like the driver of the Burning Legion, if that makes sense.
They caused Sargeras.
Right.
Caused.
Sargeras is the driving force of the Burning Legion, and his objective, based on what he showed,
Sargeras on a path that eventually went further than what they wanted it.
Right. So they create the Lich King.
Taylor let us kill him.
Yeah. They create the Lich King for a purpose.
Plot armor.
Yeah, they send the Domination armor and Frostmourne to the Burning Legion for a purpose, and then the purpose gets twisted.
Correct.
And so like the jailer's plan falters, and then like he finds a way to manipulate Arthas.
Jailer is after the cycle of death, and Sargeras is more after the cycle of void. To be very honest,
Yeah.
he wants nothing. Because if there's nothing, then nothing can be corrupt.
Right.
He essentially is working toward
You don't need to take
the
it down.
void aspect.
I want it out of the way.
What we learn in Chronicle, right? Like when we went over Chronicle, we talked about the 6 primordial forces, right? Like
Yep.
life and death are opposing.
You're okay with doing that?
And that's kind of like its own
They
thing.
need one another.
And light and
All right,
void are
we'll do that
opposing,
in
and they
a-
kind of
about
that's
15 minutes.
and that's really
Oh,
the
I don't-
story
oh, do
of
I card?
Azeroth, right? Like that's how we know it is.
Oh.
Light and void are the story. They're the opposing factions. Well, now that we've got to the Shadowlands, and in Grimoires of the Shadowlands, you talk to a broker. He's like, no, you guys got it all mixed up. It's life and death are the driving force of the cosmos. So it's a perspective thing. So because of
These
where
two other things are just part of the.
like because of where Sargeras is from, he's from Order. Like his view of what drives the cosmos is different. So I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever.
They're
No, it made
almost
perfect
like
sense to me.
they're almost beliefs as much as they are entities.
Right.
So what you are, and they are very opposed to the opposite belief of where they're from, right? So that's why Sargeras eventually goes insane and twists what the jailer is trying to. The jailer only wants death. We all know why, but Sargeras wanted to eliminate the existence of anything being able to be corrupt, which
Right.
means the existence of life.
What Sargeras' goal was is if you eradicate, so life like happened organically, and then Void came and tried to corrupt it. So his idea is if I eradicate everything, Void can't corrupt anything, and life will eventually come back.
Yep.
Like that's his.
There's
thing.
nothing left to corrupt.
Right.
The corruption will
yeah.
fade.
But the jailer's thing is the cycle of life and death is not fair. I'm going to remake it so that it's fair, but
So that death
in the
is
way that I
equal-
think it's
is
fair,
equal
not
of life. Because life was valued so much more heavily than he was.
right.
Yeah, but
Because essentially he
he's
embodies
going to
death.
be the arbiter of what's fair.
He embodies death
He wanted a new
now.
arbiter.
Right.
He was the arbiter.
Right. So he was
And
the
then
arbiter, the first
Oh,
yeah.
arbiter,
Yeah. The first arbiter.
Right, he was the first arbiter.
which we learned. We've moved on into 9.1. We learned this stuff, right? Like, so he was the first arbiter. That's why he like takes the arbiter offline. Everything's going to the Maw. He's in charge of the Maw. He's trying to get all the power because the reason that they exiled him to the Maw and cut off all souls to him is so he couldn't draw the anima to have power. But yeah,
Also
so
dry up.
he was the arbiter, and this is the, you're right, this is kind of the hole in the story, right? Like, he was the one who got to dictate where they went. And the way it's presented to Sylvanas is like, oh, well, as souls get here, if they don't fit into one of the ones that already exist, we just make a new one and send them there. So it's like, all right, there's a little bit of a hole here. Yeah.
What?
So the realms of the Shadowlands are infinite, and that's true, but we only interact with the ones that have to do with the jailer's imprisonment.
There's like
Oh, okay.
several other, or pretty much infinite other little islands and not so much factions, but existences.
Yeah, so
So you're
Shadowlands, so,
saying
like-
that I could have joined the Cooler Covenant?
yes.
Probably.
So the way, well, okay, the Covenant thing is specific to those four realms, because
You're joining one of the 4 that's on the front.
the
list.
Pantheon of Death, it just revolves around the zones that we're in. But
Correct.
the realms of death themselves are much more expansive.
Why are they special? Did we ever learn that? Why are these
They're,
four
they're not
if there's
special.
an
They're just
infinite number
fucking
of
with
them?
us.
They're just
The
the
only
ones that
one
No,
were.
you
that
just said there's
Yeah.
a
sort of-
pantheon
They're
of
not
death.
they're not any more special than any other one. They're
This
just the
is-
ones that are fucking with us.
This is part of the system that the jailer thinks is flawed. Is that these were the ones that were selected to kind of oversee
The rest of it.
the basics of how the system is supposed to work.
Did you think there was a duck realm?
I do now that there are ducks.
I want to go to the duck realm. Can I go to the duck realm?
So
Screw that. I want to go to the chicken realm so I can kill chickens. And
So
like
let
in
me
Zelda.
talk about that infinite. Let me talk about that infinite Shadowlands just a second, because for those who are new here, welcome. First of all, I've been reading the Sylvanas book on stream, and when the jailer presents his case to Sylvanas, when she throws herself off of Ice Crown Citadel and goes to the Maw and then meets with the jailer for the first time, he presents his case, and part of his case is he has the Valkyr fly her around to wherever she wants to go to see how the Shadowlands work. Her big thing about it is that no loved ones seem to go to the same realm, and that's kind of her family is like a driving force for Sylvanas throughout her story that we never
Higher
hear.
character arcs.
Yeah, her hidden character arc is that her family is important.
It's almost like she
What?
sacrificed her soul for that off the rip.
So they go to a realm of death that is like just this molten magma realm, and in this realm is just this one giant like lava centipede thing, and it's like the only thing there. And she's like, wow, what did this creature do to deserve such a terrible afterlife? And the Valkyrie are like, no, this is like perfect for this creature, because this is like how their planet is. Like, this is the situation they're from. So this is like the perfect afterlife for them. But to answer the question of what she did, she ate her mate alive. And it's like, well, where's her mate then? Oh, well, the mate went off to a different afterlife. It's like, well, if this is the perfect afterlife for this creature, why does it not have her mate here? Like, that's kind of Sylvanas's big deal. Hi, cow. her mate was the last. No,
Hi,
her mate was
cow.
not the last black dragon. Do dragons have their own afterlife? I think so, yes, but that's a different
I
story.
hope so. I want to go there.
So
I am not stepping 10 foot near a dragon afterlife. Fuck that.
I'll touch
I
that
would
one.
love that.
So just a short little side step here. So dragons are supposed to go to a realm on Azeroth, which is
Whack.
the great aviary that's overseen by one of the wild gods. Aviana is like the overseer of this, and dragons are supposed to go there.
Jillian quests for this bitch, and you probably don't even know it.
In a story about, I think this is in the War of the Ancients story where Ronan and Crassus and Roxagar go back in time. They find themselves in the aviary, and Aviana tells Crassus, "It's not your time to be here yet. So get the fuck out of here and go do what you're supposed to do." So why is Oak so cute? Actual question.
If the dragons are supposed to go there, then why the hell did Ysera end up in
Because
that
Elune.
zone?
Alune.
She was and another god basically intervened.
Yeah. So when there's an intervention from an outside force, they can kind of send it where they're not supposed to go.
There's a
aviary's
gray
less-
line there.
The aviary's less jaily.
Yeah, it's just a place for their spirits to go and
It is,
frolic.
yeah, it's their paradise, but not necessarily the necessity of the end of their life.
Right.
So
Think of the aviary as like the flying creatures version of how Wisp's work in Darnassus.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
there's
that makes sense.
can be pulled other places. But this is where like you can actually go to the aviary, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So I'd assume that dragons go and visit their loved ones' spirits at the aviary
Or they
in
could.
wispish form, right?
Right.
Like, so that's what I'd imagine the aviary comes off of. Now, like where their souls end up in death, that
God
could
damn it, Cow.
be there. It could be somewhere else. Who fucking knows? To be honest.
So I don't know. Have I answered any of your questions so far, Crazy?
I mean, Alex Strauss is the
It's-
life binder, and she's not even
weird
interested in
shit.
life.
Yeah, it's
The lore in this expansion was really difficult for me because like anytime when you're so invested in a series and a story that you start a lore podcast with a group of friends and then the next group of lore that they come out with says, yeah, so
hey, remember all
everything
that shit we
you've
talked
ever
about? Throw
thought,
that out the window.
all of
Yeah.
it, there was actually a secret extra super bad dude in the background doing all of that, and none of it was real. And you're like,
So all this stuff you
you
were
know
thinking
what?
about and debating,
I
there's
just
a dude pulling the strings.
I just don't give a shit then.
Yeah, and that's kind of the relationship a lot of people. So the people who are invested in the lore,
Story of WoW forever, though.
but like that's been the story of people who are invested in the lore of WoW for this expansion, right? They're like, yeah, you just inserted another guy into what has already happened, and I'm out. And
Yeah, just no.
Yeah, see, that's why I was so surprised when
Isn't-
people were upset about like the end game of the jailer. I'm like, guys, every big bad is the next puppet master. Like that's what it's been since the start. If
Yeah,
how
I
you
mean-
didn't see this coming is beyond me. As soon as they said this is the big guy, like
Yeah, but like,
he's the string puller.
How do
Like okay,
you-
great.
like they didn't have to do that though. You could have just gone and said, this is the end of
Yeah, but
this
people were
storyline.
surprised. That's
Uh,
what
They
they
could have,
BFA
but they're
didn't
not
have to
going
turn
to.
this way.
Like,
It could have
okay,
just
so-
been the end of all of those storylines
So
together,
we-
and then
we-
we go
we
to
kill
Dragon Isles.
Illidan.
We're like, fuck dragons, woo!
We kill Illidan. Illidan's, strings are being pulled by whoever. And then we go over to Wrath, and we find out Arthas's strings are being pulled by whoever. And we already knew that because Ner'zhul, right? So, and then we go on and we go to Cataclysm, and it's like, oh, it's Deathwing, and his strings are being pulled by the old gods. Oh, what do you know? And then we keep going. The big bad always is the dude who was pulling the strings last time, but he's getting his strings pulled this time. And this is why we're going on. Like Garrosh, Illidan, they're all the same guys. So when you
We've always known that
when
Deathwing
the
was
big
being
guy gets
controlled
posted
as
on the
well, so-
bam, it's like this is the big bad villain. It's like, okay, he's the next puppet master. Like the fact that people were surprised that the jailer was pulling the strings on everything.
yeah, Cal just
Blew
talked
me
about
away.
Cal just talked about the meme I was about to bring up about the just like the progressive like puppets, and
Yeah.
and I don't. So
And it's so
Another
funny
one.
that the artificers, like in the little island place, whatever the fuck it's called, are literally look like puppets. They have no faces. They walk around all
Well, that's-
floppy.
that's kind of the point of them, right? Like,
Yeah. No, I thought that. No,
Yeah.
that's why I said it's so
So-
funny because I think that was really well done. I hope it was intentional. I'm assuming it was intentional, but that's
Totally,
like
they
one of
remind me
the
of the
one of the most
Ethereals from
ironic,
Burning
funny
Crusade.
things they've ever done in the game. In my
the brokers.
Because I'm like,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
is the consensus opinion here that the lore of this expansion we're just going to disregard?
I
I
mean, no.
I think there are pieces of the lore. Like, I don't think.
I think we learned a lot about, at least the general populace learned a lot about the the six pillars, right? Like I think a lot of that came into play, and it was really cool to see that get in the front and center because I felt like it did the cycles of life and death, order and chaos. Like it's all piecing together, and I think this expansion has done a good job of putting that in the front line. But like, never ever will I ever think that the big bad in WoW is going to be the next driving force behind the following expansion ever. It's always someone else is pulling the strings, and that's how they continue the story to go.
So,
until they drop a fresh one
Like,
in. Like
I
they're gonna do
get-
now.
I get that.
I'm hoping.
I get that meme, right? Like, my problem with that meme is that's not exactly what they set up here.
Correct. Yeah. No, I think the jailer was a nice touch to finish off Sargeras, because Sargeras felt very open and it's just like,
Underwhelming.
okay, like what was the fucking point? Like what did
Yeah.
okay, like, what now? And I felt like this was a very cool way to kind of just slam that door shut of just being like, okay, yeah, we imprisoned Sargeras and he's got the plot armor of like he's probably coming back at some point, but now I feel like the door is open because the jailer's not whispering in his ear anymore. Right?
Who is the villain in the current lore? You mean what current lore? Anyway,
It's all the same lore.
yeah.
I
So
think the jailer
Dragons.
was a really cool way to slam the door on Sargeras, and that's all I'll ever see him as.
I
Eh.
think that there are parts of this lore that I think do fit into the old lore fine. I think that the explanation of how it got there is flawed, and I think that they can like smooth out those edges. So I don't think we're going to just forget like, oh, we left the Shadowlands, that was all garbage, let's just forget it. I don't think that's true.
I mean, we gotta remember, like, people will now praise Mop, but like at the end of Mop, people were still pissed off that pandas were there, and like the general populace
Stupid.
doesn't even realize the pandas have been around since the beginning of WoW.
Stupid.
So, like,
Eh.
when you look at like
Firepaw.
immediately dropping lore out of a context or like ignoring it entirely, all of it has value, and it only creates like, even bad storytelling in this game will eventually lead to good storytelling because they're gonna try and fucking fix everything.
Well, and I think
Unfortunately, that's what a lot of their best stories come from, I feel like.
part of that is like, I don't know how many people follow this, but they have recently hired a lot of like lore historians on the Blizzard like Warcraft team. So
Yep.
I'm hoping that the expansion of the lore team will kind of help
Make things
unfuck
less
some of this stuff.
convoluted and easier to digest. Because right now, I mean, there's no easy way to digest all the lore and WoW. It's not out there. I mean, sure, you have like Novel and those guys. You're still talking hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys aren't even doing content anymore. Like they got so fed up with this that
they're
they're like,
burnt out.
meh, yeah, I'm not doing
Like,
this.
They're like, I cannot read Latin anymore, guys. You gotta fix this up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I won't discredit the lore here. Like, I agree with you, Warrior. I think this was handled as best as it could have been, in my opinion, given the circumstances of the game as a whole. You got to remember there was some serious HR PR scandals going on towards the beginning of this expansion that kind of put a damper on things right off the rip.
As well as
at least
COVID.
Yeah, as well as COVID. There was a lot of bad things that happened to not necessarily WoW, but to Blizzard
In general.
as a whole while these were going on. And then on top of that, they're buyouts from Activision, with Microsoft, COVID, the HR PR scandals, the whole, we're talking, and it wasn't just one either. There was the pay one, there was the sexual harassment one, there was the stereotyping one. Like, they were getting hammered one after another there a long time. Not saying they didn't deserve it, because if you did it, you earned it, right? Reap what you sow. But people got to look at that when you're looking at Shadowlands. That is going to impact your game, whether it's directly or indirectly.
Oh, and it
No
did.
matter if you're a shit person or not, and we know this from anywhere else in the world, talent is talent. And I'm not saying you have to keep talent on board if they're a shit person, but I am saying if you do get rid of them, you are losing talent,
You're losing
regardless
something,
of who they were. So if you take the person away from it, you're still losing that talent, and you have to replace it.
I prefer that though. I prefer.
I know.
that
I'm
Oh,
I
for sure.
absolutely prefer that.
Absolutely.
I'd much rather them hire good people than
So
talented
the
shitty
question
people.
of
Because there are going to be new people that are going to come into this game and keep it fresh and keep it and are going to bring new talent in. But that does take time. You can't just immediately replace someone that has been on a team for years with someone fresh and just expect them to to produce the same level.
Like, all right,
Ah.
cool, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get the ball rolling again.
Yep.
Same pace, we're good. It's not really how that works.
Yeah.
So,
So,
what are you guys looking forward to in the next expansion?
Dragon.
Dragons.
Dragons.
I'm happy to
Actually,
be back.
I'm
on
dragons.
Dragons.
I'm happy to be
looking
back on
forward
Azeroth.
to new story content to see if they actually do something that makes sense.
I'm not looking for that. I know better
Yeah,
than
you-
that at this point.
I just want to see dragons. I don't give
For
a
a
shit if it
long
makes sense or
time.
not.
I mean,
Straight
I
dragons.
will
I don't
always
like
hold
dragons.
out hope that they'll do something that makes sense, but of course I know it's not going to happen. We're all
So,
going to end up being just as fucking confused as ever.
Well, that's fun.
before we jump into dragons, we got to get through. We
What
got to
about
get
dragons?
through Sanctum of Domination first.
Didn't play that. Have fun.
I hated that. I so hated Sanctum.
Sanctum.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people hated Sanctum.
I liked it as a narrative.
Expand.
It was okay.
I like seeing, like, all right, look, when I can see a good guy get corrupted and then redeemed, I don't care how fast it happens. It doesn't happen off. I mean, like, you know, Illidan was a 15-year play guy. So to watch
Wait,
someone as
Are you talking about the right raid?
No.
probably not, to be honest. I
you're
told you I would.
talking
You're talking about the second
Sepulchre.
raid.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, Sanctum
We're
was
talking-
which one? That was
Sanctum was
Sylvanas.
Sylvanas.
That was a Sylvanas raid.
Yeah, I don't know. You know me. I've always been pro Sylvanas from the start. I always felt like she was misunderstood. So
I can tell you for fact that she is, but that's not in the fucking game.
we're
so
on the same page as far as Sylvanas goes, I feel like, but I don't know. I think that raid, now that I know which raid I'm talking about, I think that raid did exactly what that raid was supposed to do narratively. Mid expansion raid. You know, it's
What-
really not, they're not pushing to get a ton done yet. They weren't too sure if they were gonna axe off, you know, a third of Shadowlands yet.
if I remember
it was okay.
correctly, crazy. This was a 1 week raid, wasn't it?
Yes.
Didn't they kill it on
Echo
Sunday?
got the kill with a couple of hours left or something. They killed
couple
it on
hours
the
to
last
spare,
day
right?
they could have.
That was the
On
quote, yeah.
Monday.
Yeah. It was a 1 week raid, and it will be remembered as a raid.
yeah, yeah. I
I
don't.
mean, it
I
wasn't.
agree with that. It wasn't. I don't think it was like a
wasn't great.
visual-
Like there were some
wasn't
bosses
great.
that were okay. There
was
were
like-
some bosses that were challenging and fun because of how they were challenging. Like Painsmith was
Painsmith.
objectively
Painsmith.
100%
pretty good.
Painsmith.
If you want a hard boss, Painsmith was a pretty good fight. But then you have Fate Scribe and KT, and it's just like, what are you doing?
So-
there were most of the raid was honestly a bit of a letdown.
What did you? Okay, so Fate Scribe. Nobody liked Fate Scribe.
No.
If they were to redo that fight, do you think the idea of that fight still works, or do you think it needs a complete overhaul?
No, I hate it. Me personally, I hated it.
Think the Fate Scribes fight would need a complete overhaul. The mechanic was just too confusing at times.
I just hated the fight. It was just stupid. It was just stupid. They forgot that circles spin and at the same speed, and so what was supposed to be the difficulty of the fight, you just ignored.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, the difficulty of the
Just
fight. The difficulty of the fight being that you had to coordinate with 6 people to get the rings to go in the right direction.
Yeah, you just didn't have to do that. All you had to do is coordinate with 6 people to start the rings as soon as possible. And as long as you started them
Yeah,
as soon as possible, you couldn't fail.
I don't know. I
Because you could
thought
always go in one direction. It just worked.
I thought the idea of the fight was fine, but I just don't see a way in which they can implement that in a way that would be
Blizzard
Interesting.
consistently underestimates their player base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't like that fight at all. I didn't like it
Or
when I
like,
saw it during testing. I
mechanic
didn't
design.
like it when I casted it. I didn't like it when I did it.
It's like they underestimate the players breaking their game every time. Every time. And it's not like
Every time,
and we're not
yep.
even breaking it, we're just doing it better than they thought it could be done.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's all that's happening. It's not like the mechanic design itself was bad, but it's like they thought it would be challenging, and then
we're
didn't.
gonna do this. Okay,
Yeah, we're like,
well, we
yeah,
found
no,
this way to do
do
this,
it
and
the way
it
you want us to do it. It maybe could be hard, but we're not going to do it the way you want us to do it. We're going to do it the way we think is better. And now your fight is extremely. It's. I mean, it's the same reason why like classic is not hard, right? Like, we just know how to do fights better.
Do you think the K? Oh, so you said KT. Do you think the KT fight was bad or just tuned improperly?
Bad. I think it was bad fight.
Interesting.
You have to do the same thing 3 times, and then it turns into an all-out burn.
Gotcha.
Yeah, anything that's a repeat cycle of more than 2 is unnecessary.
Well, not just that. Like you could cheese certain mechanics.
Yeah.
You could just make mechanics not exist. There was a trinket tanks could use that helped with different things. There were weird timings you can do on the first couple of weeks during the Race to World First stuff. If you pushed at certain timings, it literally changed how the fight functioned to make it easier for you. You changed the way the mechanics would come out and the timing on things, and you could literally alter the progression of the fight by standing still and waiting.
Yeah, I don't like
and you have all that, and then just randomly in the middle of the fight, you go into the intermissions and you have those banshees. And if you somehow don't interrupt the spell in the first 1 second of the actual cast, it's going to shoot a bolt after the 1 second cast, and that bolt's a one shot.
Yeah, and that I thought that was the worst part.
Ridiculous bullshit and all this stupid gamesmanship and all
I
of this like tinkering to try to get the timings right. And then if someone hits a kick and doesn't have a perfect reaction time, someone just dies.
Yeah.
It no part of that fight, at least to me, worked well to make it fun.
I don't know. I feel like there was minimal effort put into a very large character in that fight.
Now that I agree with
you resurrected a character that and a villain that a lot of people do enjoy. They do enjoy KT. So like
KT's done dirty in this lore.
They know people love KT, so they brought him back and again. And
well, the way that they did KT to begin with at the end of the last expansion he was in, we never found out what happened to his urn.
Right.
Or his phylactery.
No, I
so
mean,
at any given time, he can come back.
Every other mainstream villain in WoW. Like again, they don't die. They're jailed or we don't know what happened.
Now
he just
gone.
But I mean, we clearly have from Blizzard this time. That's it. Like we destroyed that thing. Which
so
we all know is bullshit anyway, but whatever. Like that's the
I mean, we all know they'll just pull them out. There's a reason that Twisting Nether exists, okay?
Right.
The question is this with KT though: how the fuck did we destroy his urn if his urn is still on Azeroth and we don't know where the fuck it's at?
Well, clearly it's in the Shadowlands.
It's gone. Like everything else.
It's fine. Don't worry.
It's
get to the Shadowlands. That's the question.
I mean, how
you're killing spirits in the realm of death? Okay, I don't really think that it matters too much where his urn's at this.
I mean, that's the part of the fight though. Is that the downstairs part of that fight is that you go into the phylactery.
Yo, Cal's something smart for once.
That's not. That's not true.
I've never had to do that part of the fight because I'm a tank.
Yeah. So what happens is so you get him down and then it activates the phylactery and that's what the portal is in the fight that you send people into is they go into the phylactery. The urn is inside the wind.
Lord of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, take aspect. I miss out on some of the lore for boss fights, like that one, because I don't do that mechanic.
And if you do the achievement and you pet Mr. Bigglesworth throughout the raid, it makes that downstairs phase harder.
Fucking Mr. Biggle. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like there just wasn't a whole lot of effort put into it.
It's to me
Why bring them back again if you're not gonna like, especially with it being the final time.
Yeah, it was dirty for sure. What are your thoughts on the 13-minute Sylvanas fight with 8 minutes of RP?
Yeah.
Cut the RP.
Make the RP
Too long.
skippable.
Make the RP
Too long
skippable.
a fight. Way too
Like,
long.
some people might still want it, but like, make it skippable.
Cut phase 1.5. Cut phase 2.5. Phase 3 was good. Phase 3 was a really.
Well, I mean,
I don't
phase
know,
3 is
man.
the fight. Like I think you could have gone from phase 1 to phase 3. Like phase 2 could have been the RP. Is that
just boring?
Like, hey, this is the RP. Like, here's the mid-fight cutscene. Like, we've thrown chains. I'm gonna go up these chains and fight you in Orbos, and then like skip phase 2 altogether. Like completely.
Yeah. Phase 2 was... I didn't like Phase 2 at all, especially the stupid fucking holes.
Yeah.
I have a sick penchant for loving any fight that's like 8+ minutes.
I mean, that just seems to be. I mean, we can talk about that later. But that just seems to be the.
I don't know why. Like, look, I feel like, you work the whole raid and you're like sprinting. Like most of the fights are quick. You're sprinting.
You get to the last 2 fights and it's like, why am I here for 10 minutes?
No, like me, I'm like, dude, it was even the same thing with like the last 2 in Nyolotha. I was like, damn, these are fucking long, hard fights.
Well,
I like this shit.
And that's the other part.
It just.
If I'm not frustrated with the last boss, I'm disappointed.
I was actually talking to somebody about that Nyolotha fight. How technically that's one fight. Like the way that was originally set up is Carapace and N'Zoth are supposed to be one fight.
Yep.
But they broke it up because they both were so fucking long.
Yeah, people were like, "No, this is not going to work.
You need a break."
Yeah. Yeah,
dude, timed intermissions.
Cal just brought up the 8-minute or the cutscene in the middle of a fight. Yeah,
like give me a non-skippable 3-minute cutscene or some shit. Boom, you get up, you pee, you grab a bottle of water.
Yep.
Run it, and then reset cooldowns as well. Just
yeah,
boom.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
I'd be down for that shit. Damn, that'd be fun. I'd be so down for that.
So that's the end of 9-1. We defeat Sylvanas. Jailer gets the Arbiter's core back. He takes Anduin into Zereth Mortis. Sylvanas gets her soul back. There's a part of the story, one that I completely and 100% called. What are your thoughts on that part of the story? And how did you interpret that, I guess, is more of the question.
Sylvanas did a lot wrong, and I don't get the redemption arc. I don't know why everybody has to get a redemption arc.
I don't consider it a redemption arc.
I don't either.
She's definitely repenting.
I don't think Sylvanas got a single thing that in the end she truly wanted.
I 100% don't think she got anything she wanted.
Yep. I think that I don't think Sylvanas has been redeemed. I think her story now is at the start of her redemption path, and what she does from here is going to determine that factor. I think right now she has done a lot of terrible things that she knows are terrible. She knew were terrible when she was doing them, thought they were for a greater good, and is now having to live with that morally for what's essentially going to be an eternity. So
Sylvanas,
I feel like is not redeemed. I think as a character she knows that.
Well, I mean that's why she went to Tyrande. That's why her judgment came from Tyrande.
Correct. Correct.
Throw it at me.
She knows. I think Sylvanas, as far as like where she ended up, didn't get anything she wanted, but again, I got exactly what she deserved. And they managed to semi-close the door on somebody other than, them coming back unless Tyrande brings them back. I don't know how that's going to pan. I don't know. It's actually a door that's kind of left cracked open that I don't mind that's left cracked open for once. Like I'm like, okay, like there's still some like even if she comes back, there's still a problem with it. Morally with the rest of the world, essentially. So I like that door's cracked open. Most of the time I don't enjoy when they don't shut things all the way. But this one I do say was done at least decently.
Yeah, I don't know.
I personally think Sylvanas got what
as
she
you can see, my
deserved.
recurring theme.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wasn't happy with the lore of this expansion.
So
Oh, you're just a permanent resident. I own it.
I guess my question really is, what is your take on? It's kind of kind of the same with Uther, right? Like the idea that a part of the soul has been in stasis and then has been rejoined with the actions of the soul after the fact.
It gives you a pure moment of like true reflection, because it's like you're looking at yourself prior. The you from prior to all of this is looking at you now. So it's like pure you is looking at already fucked up you. So you can like see, oh shit, and it's pure reflection. So Sylvanas getting that, in my opinion, was a good moment to start at least the possibility of redemption. She may get it, she may not, but at least now she's reflected and she's in a moment where she can like see, okay, this like already messed up me has known that this is fucked up, but now like pure old me sees and has reflected, and now we can move towards at least the better cause, or at least attempt to somewhat redeem ourselves and make good on what we've done and move forward from there at least as much as possible before either redemption happens or not. That's up to ultimately who is judging you, whether it be you or whoever you are deemed to be judged by. In the case of Sylvanas, it's Tyrande. So, you know,
Leave them alone.
I think it's a really good moment to like, and similarly with Uther, like you're being put in a position of true reflection. Like it's different when you're in the moment and you're not like everything's already happened. But if you're being viewed by another like version of yourself,
Another version of yourself, yeah.
Yeah, like it is before all of this. It's like split personalities, right? You got like one that is seeing the other one do all this fucked up stuff and is then coming back together like, okay,
no, I couldn't have possibly done that.
Right. And then it's that moment of like, you know, coming to terms with what you've done, what the other you has done already. Like it's already happened. You can believe it or you can not believe it, but it's happened, you know? And now you gotta live with that. So it's an internal struggle, then it becomes an outward struggle, and then moving on.
All right, so last thing in this patch before we move on, what does everybody think of domination shards?
I want
hate
one.
you. I'm gonna leave if you mention.
Please,
yeah.
never
So
again.
worst
Move
system
on.
ever. Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Definitely fucking up
Bad.
there without having to think.
Yeah. Like that was the worst
Yeah,
possible
bad, move on.
iteration. The worst possible iteration of a stopgap between like, no, we're just gonna do armor class specific to tier sets like that.
Yeah, no,
that
we're
was,
not gonna do tiers. We're gonna do this other thing that's way
and it's
worse.
garbage. Okay, cool. I'm glad we talked about it. Next. All right, so now we're gonna go into Zereth Mortis. We're following the jailer. He's trying to get to the sepulchre of the first ones.
Look, it's grandma.
Look, it's grandma. Oh, you made it! Awesome.
Hey,
I'm glad that
Grandma.
you haven't completely passed out from your
So it's crack.
self-medication.
You grandma.
Yes.
So yeah, so the whole idea of this story so far has been the jailer's trying to get to the sepulchre of the first ones in Zereth Mortis, which we learn the Zereth installations, kind of like how we have all of the old installations on Azeroth. The Zereth installations are like the first one's versions of creating the different primordial forces of the universe, I guess, for lack of a better word. So that's where the magic happens, is in the sepulcher of the first ones. That's why he's trying to get there. He takes Anduin with him. Anduin, on another plot twist that I totally called at the beginning, wielding his new Mournblade that will
You mean
forever...
Arthas 2.0?
Yeah. His Mournblade that was named improperly. Yeah, so we get to learn about creation of these primordial forces and the realms in which they exist. What did we think of? What was our initial reaction to Zereth Mortis, just in general, like aesthetically?
It's really pretty.
Super pretty.
It was a nice departure from Gray, right?
Zereth Mortis was honestly not a bad zone overall. The progression of it wasn't bad. The story wasn't bad. The daily gameplay loop wasn't bad. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of collection that you can do. Though once they turned the big quest into a weekly that could be gotten from doing literally anything on the island, it wasn't bad. It was okay.
In a minute.
And they tied a lot of cool things into it. I actually liked Zereth Mortis.
I think it looked like a Warhammer map.
I mean, in my case,
that's fair.
Like, I didn't come in until we were already like near the end of that season and that patch. So catch up for me, being able to get both of my legendaries and then learn that I fucked up both of my legendaries and then get 2 new legendaries was actually extremely easy. I enjoyed being in it.
That's the gameplay part of it, right? Like the acquisition of legendaries when Zereth Mortis came out was such a less taxing ordeal. Like, we literally got to throw Torghast in the garbage, which we talked about earlier tonight.
Needs it.
Is it trash can? Yes.
And we can just do Zereth Mortis, which, as Crazy Puck was talking about, like, it was compact. Like, everything you did impacted the weekly quest. It was super easy to get the resources you need.
Yeah, that's how the game should feel. If I play the game and I do whatever the current content is, it all counts.
Yeah.
It's real simple.
Absolutely.
I will say though, I did hate the rep grind. Being like super late to it.
That's just a thing. Like, that's just a function of the game since...
Yeah, that's just a WoW thing.
Mop?
Just a rep grind. Honestly, this wasn't the bad
No,
grind.
I'm more so mad at myself for starting so late. Like, I didn't
that's a
get
you problem.
revered until like...
So
I'm more apt to log in and rep grind than I am raid right now.
Fair.
I'm sorry, I don't know you well. You're Warrior's son?
Yes, sir.
So you're like a kid, and you don't remember like old WoW. This is
How old we talking?
Like when you were 7.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't know.
Literally like 5 years younger than me, guys.
I've been playing this stupid game for very long.
And you were just complaining that you're old.
Yeah, okay. Don't do what I did to my body. Okay, that's simple.
Yeah. Zereth Mortis was good, and the raid wasn't terrible.
I don't know. I just didn't like how it worked.
I wasn't complaining about rip grinding. I was just complaining about the fact that it came in.
Your late start to the rep grind.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's
so you're complaining about your own.
Like I said, that's a you problem. Honestly, I thought the rep grind in Zereth Mortis.
It was easier than it was in anything else.
Yeah. I felt like I was able to do it in 2 weeks, and I'm like, dude, that was nothing.
That's how they set it up. Like, Crazy Puck, you can talk about this because that affected the Raiders, right? Like, the fact that you could get your rep in 2 weeks, like, as that second week of Mythic progression went through.
We're
like,
full mass at that point. As a Raider, you're full mass. When you hear rep grind done 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, head down, rep grind, go.
I mean, I know.
No problem.
I'm doing it. You mean it's only going to take me 2 weeks? I'm not going to do this content.
I know guys like THD hated that because they like grinding, but...
THD is a masochist in the most masochist form.
Absolutely true.
Oh my god. He even likes making things harder on himself. Like, have you seen how he eats?
It's called content, Oak.
That's not content.
I mean, THD is he is content. Let's be real here. I mean, he's pretty entertaining. I don't know, to be the comic relief of like damn near every Race to World First they've streamed as a team is pretty impressive.
Right.
Where are you gonna eat those Pop-Tarts at, bowl?
Yeah. So, since we're at the raid, actually, let's talk about kind of the story of Zereth Mortis for a little bit. As you progress through the story of Zereth Mortis, we get to learn what takes down the Arbiter. We get to learn the Nathrazim's role in taking down the Arbiter. You get to learn. This is kind of where we learn how Ysera gets to Ardenweald. Like, the Nathrazim do the same thing to Argus that Elune effectively does to Ysera. Like, the interference of another force moves that soul to the Shadowlands, even though they're not supposed to be there. Crazy Puck is intently looking at his screen.
Pondering.
Sorry, guys, I've got company, so I've got to go.
No worries. No worries. All right, I'll fix frames while you guys talk about this.
I don't
You're
know
not my
anything about
dad.
the story of Zereth Mortis. I just went and grinded out what I needed to and moved on. I genuinely don't know anything
I
about
like the
story.
aspect of Zereth Mortis because I like the primordial concepts of the game. But again, it just looked like a fucking Warhammer map, man. Like I'm like, this looks like a tabletop game.
Oh my God, Cal, why are you fucking things up?
Oh,
Son of a bitch.
no.
Dude, he just joined in and he's like, am I on time?
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah, you're on cow time. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's completely fuck everything up, cow style.
Hell yeah.
What are you doing?
He's in bed. What else is he doing, bro? That's all he does.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Well, I guess if you want to fuck up the stream, that's the way to do it. Anyway, I don't even remember what we were talking about. What were you talking about, Crazy? Sorry.
I skipped
don't
the
remember what we were
entirety of
talking
the
about.
war of
Crazy
Zereth
hell.
Mortis.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea what happens in the zone. I
Okay.
don't know anything about
He's like,
the
I did
war.
what I gotta do. I got out.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I had to grind. I did.
I
my
mean,
grind,
listen.
and that was it.
we kind of talked about this already. Like, that's kind of how people played this expansion, right? Like,
Yeah.
they disconnected from the story that was happening at the beginning because they're like,
Yeah,
this doesn't
for
make
sure.
any fucking
I was
sense.
so checked out of the story. We got to Zereth Mortis. I'm like, ooh, it's pretty. Ooh, I have to go do this, and this. I can grind
There's
this.
a lot of
Let's go.
blue.
Yeah.
I like the giant floating orbs all over the place.
Oh, I also love those. This is really cool.
Yeah, I thought the design of Zereth Mortis was fantastic. Like, spot on, Blizzard. Like, good job. Like, you did it.
Zereth Mortis nailed the question, is water wet?
And in
No.
fact, not. It's solid.
Walk on it.
It is actually just not.
It's a
at all.
solid that you cannot dive down. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Although
You know how
Pokepoke
I
can
found
do it.
out that you couldn't go into water in Zereth Mortis
You
by
spent
jumping
10
off the
minutes
cliff into
trying.
what I thought was water.
Nice. Solid.
Because I just avoid water by all instinct and WoW if I'm on a ground map. So
Yeah,
Fair.
accurate. Like, totally accurate. So yeah, so basically what we learned with Zereth Mortis is that is where the Eternal Ones are created. Like, that's kind of what we learned in the raid. Like, we fight the Pantheon of the first ones, and you fight like prototype versions of the Winter Queen and Denathrius and the Primus and what the fuck is her name? Carestia, the first one. From Bastion. That's her actual name.
Oh, I have no idea.
I can't remember why I
Couldn't
cannot
tell you.
fucking remember her name.
The Archon?
Yes, thank you. That's it.
Yes. I was like, Arbiter? No, wrong A.
But while we're questing, we figure out that, like, hey, there's got to be an Arbiter, so we have to go find a vessel. We have to go find the Arbiter vessel and put a soul into it. So basically what we learned is that Eternal Ones are created
Do?
from vessels that are created in Zereth Mortis, and then souls are put into it.
Oh, cool. Oh yeah,
So-
that was the Pelagos thing, right?
Yeah. So that's how they were gonna. That's how the Dreadlords and the Jailer were gonna affect the Shadowlands. Is that they sent Argus's soul to the Shadowlands, and they were gonna put his soul in an Arbiter vessel, and he was gonna become the Jailer's Arbiter pawn.
He was already being controlled by
And then-
the Jailer.
That's when we defeat the soul of Argus again and put Pelagos into the thing, and then Pelagos is like, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys decide what to do. So yeah, so then we go into the raid. We've already been in the raid. Like, that was week 7, I think, of the story, and you know, the raid had already been cleared. That was did that go 2 full weeks or almost 2 weeks?
Oh no, what past 2 weeks?
Did it? Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah, no, this raid was like 18 days.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. They were.
No, it was fucking terrible.
Yeah. You could tell from the casting team, like, they're just like, oh, because it was
Wait, still here?
how long? Because it was how long? So Halandris was the first hang up. That took what, 4 days?
Yes.
And then
The crab took 4 days, and it took like a day and a half or 2 days.
It's not surprising.
Jailer took
then-
a while.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was then we had a second reset, and then we went into splits again.
Oh, that's right. It was
We
split
had
hell.
to re-gear Evade to bring him in for Lords of Dread. Got Lords of Dread, and then we went into Rygalon, and we're like, oh my god, it's hard. This is another 300 pool boss.
Yeah. This raid.
The raid felt like the last 3 bosses were supposed to be either a mini raid or a separate raid.
Yeah, that's
This
exactly.
raid could have ended after Anduin.
I
we all
absolutely
said
felt
that
that
at the
way.
time too.
Yep.
After we got our Anduin kill, which Scott soloed the last like minute and a half of.
Yep, which was
amazing.
fantastic to watch.
After Anduin died, we all just kind of sat there like, yeah, this feels like it should be end. Oh my god, there's more.
Yeah.
It was way too long. Just
But wait,
total time
there's
investment.
more.
But it was a good raid. Like, the fights were good, the fights were challenging, the way they were challenging was enjoyable. The only problem was it just took too long. It was too long of a raid. It was too long of a progression. And then to bring it back down to earth for like us regular players that aren't world first players, they've nerfed the raid like 60,000 times.
It is so nerfed.
So like they shot high.
Oh, they
decided
shot real
this
high.
wasn't going to be a short raid. This was going to be a difficult one. And they shot really high.
Yeah, for sure they did.
It was fun fights though. Like,
You're fixing that for the wrong reasons. I turned my camera
well-
off because of things.
I mean,
there
I
was
just turned the
a
names
lot
off.
That was
Okay, I
there's a
thought
lot
you were.
that was really
No.
fun.
I just turned the names off. I figured you were coming back.
Halandris was one
Yeah,
of
give
the
me about
most
10 seconds.
hilariously good fights we've had in a really long time.
I-
It was that was a fun fight to progress when I did it. It was a fun fight to cast. It was a fun fight to be a part of at a world first level because it was just so challenging in a different way than what we normally get with just the absurd level of coordination required. It was a good time. And then Anduin was just a very good end boss style fight. Rygalon was a phenomenal fight. The developer who was in charge of overseeing Rygalon said it was like their favorite fight they'd ever made.
Wow.
And I agree.
It's a great fight.
Awesome fight. Jailer was meh. Jailer was not as good. I think if there weren't as many line of sight issues in phase 1 on Jailer,
Accurate.
it would be remembered better. But the line of sight issues really killed it because you spent so much time trying to make sure that you can actually like see the fight. Phase 2, phase 3, and the mythic phase weren't bad. By the end of the tier, after all the nerfs, phase 3 and phase 4 were kind of really underwhelming.
Yeah.
For an end boss, but they had to do that because everything was so overtuned for so long.
Yeah.
But it was a good raid. I enjoyed it.
That kind of goes back to, like, we were talking about how, like, the last 3 bosses could have been a whole nother raid. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I don't necessarily think they cut, like, the beginning to the end of the story, but things were omitted. Like, there definitely should have been, like, I think Anduin would have been an end boss, and then we would have gone to another raid. And I think that's where those bosses come from.
Yeah. And I think pretty much everyone agrees on that. But I mean,
it is what it is.
It'll be remembered as a pretty decent raid.
And now we're here in season 4. We already talked about that. Well, we killed a jailer. We get a cutscene where we kind of touched on this already, where it's like, hold on. We talked about like, oh, there's always the next big bad, right? I don't think that's how this presented, but I understand.
And now for once, there's not.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it was presented.
We just get to go fight dragons.
Yeah. So anyway.
Dragons.
Yeah, you don't need a big bad, dude. You just dragon. That's it.
We're nerds. We're real simple. I just want to fight in.
Yeah, we're simple.
Yeah,
bro.
So
dragons fighting dragons, fighting something else. That's all I want.
Yeah, at the core of things, like, I just wanted to chop some dragons up. That's why I started playing this thing.
So
I saw my cousin fighting dragons. I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So do you think there's gonna be? I guess it'll be done in pre-patch. But how do you think we're gonna go from where we are now to Dragon Isles?
Well, so
our glorious return to Azeroth.
Can I like
on spaceships led by space?
Damn right.
I mean, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're going spoilers. Okay, so there's a time skip. It's explicitly said on the beta.
That came out.
Click through that says that a few years has passed, and it's like 5 years canonically. I think has passed since you came out of the Shadowlands.
So we come back home,
and I haven't done the starting quest, so I don't actually know what gets
us there.
Dragon Isles, but my guess would be, or my understanding would be, it's probably kind of similar to like Mist Pandaria, where we found a new spot.
So it's very Mop-esque.
Yeah,
it's like
I'm fine.
We just happened upon this island.
Now the rain is gone.
Yeah,
boom, the island.
I'm fine with that. You mean to tell me after having to do all this stupid bullshit,
you telling me we flew a spaceship over this bitch didn't see this island?
All of a sudden now, just like, hey, there's an island and it's got a bunch of dragons. We should go.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, dude, like, we're simple people. We just want dragons. Like,
it doesn't take much.
I'm good. You said, oh wait, the
dragons.
The expansion that literally every time anything green pops up, we're guessing that's what's coming out.
Yeah.
Like, for God's sakes, we thought Legion was gonna be the Dragon Isles just because the first released leaked zone was was whatever.
Stormheimer. Yeah.
Val'sharah.
Yeah. And the first one leaked was like Val'sharah, and everybody's like, oh my god, Dragon Isles, blah, 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 and everybody lost their shit. And then same with Mop. When Mop got leaked, it was like, oh, it's the Dragon Isles, it's the Dragon Isles. And then I think that's honestly why everybody was so upset about Panda.
That's the real, that's the real truth.
People were mad about pandas.
They were just mad at pandas for not being dragons.
That's what it was.
So
I'd be too.
Anytime anything green has popped up since Classic, it's Dragon. I mean, and even then, people thought the original GM Island was like that's where Dragon Isles was gonna be, and
Which
It's always been.
turns
in the game.
out they're kind of right.
Yeah, right. Actually, I mean, not actually.
Spoilers,
wrong,
the map's out. Sorry.
not wrong. So, I mean, I think it's really cool that this is something that has been in the game. Like, don't get me wrong, I was glad to get something fresh in Shadowlands. I feel like this is something that Blizzard is known about, acknowledged, and respected since Classic. So for them to finally open up the floodgates on it, it's gonna be like if they ever do an Emerald Dream expansion. We know it's
Oh yeah. So
which is my thinking that's where we're going after that.
So we're kind of at the end of this episode. We'll kind of wrap it up a little bit, but I do want to talk, like, we're all of us have either been in alpha or are in beta except Jackson.
That's what you get for not being a sub for 10 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What are your initial impressions?
You were in diapers. What the hell?
What are your initial impressions of, like, because we talked about offline, we talked about the new talent system. What are your thoughts on the Drakthir evokers? What are kind of your initial thoughts of what's coming down the pipe?
Crazy, have you played the Drakthir?
I have.
I made one and I spent like 5 minutes just flying around, like breathing fire in a straight line with it. It was like, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It's still a little buggy. I can't wait till it's fixed. But that was like,
yep. That's exactly my impression of it too.
I got in the first wave of alpha. So when
Makes
I was
sense.
in, it was super early.
Yeah. So have you played it since then?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's come a long way since then.
Yeah. Of the people I've talked to who played alpha, this version of beta is significantly better.
Well, I was a little worried. Like, I was worried they were rushing, to be honest. Like with alpha, I was fairly concerned with alpha. I was like, God, this is quick.
That was the concern, right? That was the concern with, like, they've already said, like, the scheduled release date will be before the end of December, and everyone's like, oh man, are we gonna rush this out again? Like, are we gonna get another rushed expansion? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, but if you remember, like, Legion's official announcement to release was also very.
Yeah.
So, and Legion was, I mean, it was a great expansion. Now, granted, I think it might have been a little too great in Blizzard's eyes because they just carried everything they thought was good about it into the last 4 or 3, whatever. Artifact power, grind. Like, and world quests were fun at one point, but now it's just like, dude, they give me so little that they used to be very spread out, like bigger, so you got more from doing one, and that felt better. But I feel like they've just burnt us out on everything that we liked about Legion. So
pretty much.
So here's
time to play the game differently.
Here's a question.
After playing the beta versus the alpha, I'm not too concerned.
Here's a question.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that you
to play beta, but I've heard good things.
The only complaint about the Drakthir I have is let's decide what we're doing with the healing range, because it's not the middle of the pack.
Dude,
it is not.
So
it's not working.
That's the Drakthir I made, was the preservation. It is. Yeah. It is weird. It is weird.
And, like, you're not sure what you should do, right? Because, like, what happens with range stack mechanics, like, versus melee stack mechanics? Like, I don't want to be in melee bad. I'm a healer.
Yeah.
Unless I absolutely need to be there, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah.
Even melee healers like Paladin, for example,
Monk,
their splash, like, their single targets are at range. They still are the 45.
Mm-hmm.
So that just I didn't like.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
It's a weird.
It just felt like I was by myself a lot.
Yeah, the range is really weird on that.
Yeah, because dude, if you're a hunter, you're gonna stand all the way the fuck back there. That's
all the way in the back.
Yeah, like, don't one of the specs have a mastery? Like, the further you are, the more
it's
damage
marksman.
Yeah, okay, exactly. I don't really play hunter, but that's my point.
Has anyone seen so and so? Oh yeah, he's like 100 yards that way.
Yeah, Crazy Puck's back there.
Yeah. Like, hey, dude, I'll get to you in a minute. I gotta hit the tank and I can't do it. Hold on, dude.
There's
Like-
a lot of debate right now over the whole Evoker 25-yard heal thing.
Yeah,
It's-
I
there's a
even
lot of-
saw something
Bro,
today.
if you want to make it all melee, I'm cool with that because they're very mobile. So I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, cool. Like flying back and forth, making you use the wings. I'm cool with that play style, but
Yeah.
make it that play style. Don't
Like
give
a
me some
wing flap
weird
backwards
in
evade.
the
Just like
middle. Like, I feel like this is like Goldilocks.
Yeah,
The one extreme or the other, and they're trying to find just right, but it's still too damn cold.
I saw a headline today about all healing being limited to 25 yards. It's like that's terrible. If that goes in, that's not
I
good.
know. I'm cool with that. Like, if that's what they want to do, because like that was a cool aspect of the early days of WoW was like you could range your healers very easily, right? Like with the boss hitboxes. And
Yeah,
how things were
I
set
guess.
up.
Yeah,
Like that
guess.
was a core mechanic of the game you had to kind of work around, which I'm cool with, but don't give one healer this weird
yeah,
in between.
Just this weird. Yeah,
and the
exactly.
rest of it, like you're immediately
Yeah.
like singling out a healer in certain cons right out the rip by making it
kind of have like
that being able to
groups,
heal.
and they're just like stuck.
Because
here.
now you can't stack in range and heal the tanks, and now you can't stack in melee and heal the range. Every other healer can.
Yeah,
Because
there's
Yeah.
single targets from like paladins and monks are 45 yards.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, I think that's gonna do it for us today.
Sorry, that irritates the shit out of me.
It's understandable.
I think, man, we didn't touch on everything in Shadowlands. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we tried to jam 2 years worth of shit into 2 hours, which we all know is not
So
gonna
did
work.
Blizzard.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank Crazy Puck and Corora and JustOhk for hanging out. Lunar Phase Gaming, she had to bounce out. Cal's guest appearance for like 5 seconds and screwing everything up.
Fuck Cal.
Wow.
We're gonna try to make this a more regular thing. The format might not necessarily be this. Like I talked about a month ago. I put out a YouTube kind of short about, you know, maybe I'll move my reading and we'll do like an interactive panel where I'm reading and we kind of talk about like what's happening in the book or whatever.
Yeah, good luck getting through it.
Listen, that's kind of the idea, right? Like we can talk about it as we go through the story, as opposed to just me sitting here and talking to nobody. Or we can talk about, you know, a future patch or gameplay, or we can talk about lore, or we can talk about some speculation. I want to do more than just like book report stuff.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla cosplay stream.
Hey, whatever.
just-
I'm down.
Really glad we could assemble for this. Assassin's Creed Day was like last week. They had a lot of good announcements.
Yeah, Oak and I were in
This
here
is a great
earlier with our Valhalla cosplays.
I mean, you look good. It looks good on you. I'm not
Hey,
gonna
thanks.
lie.
I mean, listen, some of these
You
people
dress
haven't
up
seen
like
me in a
Santa.
year and a half, so you know,
you look so jolly.
I don't feel jolly.
I've
But
checked
anyway,
your stream from time to time. Don't lie.
I'll braid my hair. We're good.
yeah. Well, Lynette tried to braid my hair, but I've got to get the front to grow longer so it matches in the back.
Mine's all chopped off, dude. Donated.
But yeah, so thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. We'll do this some more. And the panel will change it up. Like Lucas' grandma didn't get to make it tonight, but she'd like to come. I got a couple other people who are interested. So it's not just gonna always be the same people. Other than me, unfortunately, you have to stare at my ugly face every time. But yeah,
Or Rachel helping.
I'm just gonna get longer and longer.
It's like I'm stuck here.
just keep
Just
So
keep going.
yeah, so this is gonna go up on YouTube. I did record it. That'll be up probably tomorrow. So look for that.
Wait.
And yeah, remember that YouTube channel that I made for this like 2 years ago?
No, but
Finally
wait, I
active.
wanna be on the internet.
What?
I don't want to be on the internet. I want to be
Dude,
anonymous.
you're on the internet all the time. Don't.
I don't wanna be on the
I want to be anonymous.
Here,
Wait,
here.
we're
I
live?
made a button
What?
for you, Crazy Puck. Look at chat.
Hey, I'm Crazy Puck. I'm with Team Liquid. I'm announcing. I know there's
We're online right now. So yeah. This will go up on YouTube.
Anon. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah.
I don't exist. I'm just a random.
What?
That's
We're
that's
live?
about it for us, guys. This is the last of my whiskey coffee. Cheers. I appreciate you guys very much, and I'll see you guys next time.
Friends.
I'm not
Peace.
too in, but-
I have water.